With Fortnite Chapter 5 Season 1 coming out very soon, I wanted to ask the community, instead of just my ideas today, we are going to look at the community. Is there something that Epic Games could learn from OG Fortnite? Today, we are going to be taking a look at community replies, and I'm going to give my thoughts on what they had to say. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another video. If you are new here, my name is Kyle. I'm your guy with many YouTube channels, and welcome back to the reply room, everybody, where I ask you guys a question or have a statement, have you guys reply to it, and then I make a video reacting to those replies. Today, this is what I had to say. What is the biggest lesson you think Epic could learn from the success of Fortnite OG moving forward with Chapter 5? Guys, I cannot wait to hear what you all have to say. Drop a comment down below if you agree or disagree with anything. I would love to talk about it down there, guys. Let's get into it. I think the biggest lesson they may learn from OG is that they should deal with weapons, items, and vehicles like before. In OG, it was very obvious that was something different from Chapter 4. Most items and vehicles are fun right now. I can't really think of an item that doesn't really have anything that special to it. Most weapons, items, if not all, have received a lot of love from the community and would love to see new wacky items and guns being added into the game. Vehicles have been here for a long time. From Chapter 1 to Chapter 4, they constantly added new vehicles. In Chapter 1, they were very strange and fun, but through more time and more realistic vehicles got added, me and I think most of the community can agree that this is not a good idea. We all like things like the hoverboard that were random but insanely funny, and also a lot of funny clips of Twitch streamers raging over the mech and baller. Also, something that I've noticed a lot of people, including me, seem to like was purple and gold weapons being hard to find. In Chapter 4, every chest I opened, there was at least a blue AR or a purple sticky launcher, and it didn't feel rewarding. I was very proud when I found a purple scar in week 1 OG because I knew it was very hard to find. Even in endgame, you rarely found a purple, let alone gold weapon until the treasure map showed up. I hope Epic learns from things like this because it would be very healthy, I think. I will say, I wholeheartedly 100% agree about the purple and gold weapons. 100%. I like that it's rare and they are more powerful than the other weapons. It's just like you said, way more rewarding. But when it comes to the vehicles, to be honest with you, I still don't like what they did with the vehicles. They ruined planes. It's not OP as it once was. The shopping carts don't feel the same. You can't bounce around the ballers the same way. If they were the same ones from Chapter 1, then I would agree with you. But the only one that was really that much fun to me, in my opinion, was the hoverboards, because that remained relatively unchanged, but your point still stands. For the most part, I completely agree with it. Epic 100% have learned that they needed to reclaim their originality back. This season was the best way to deliver both a send-off and a new beginning. Like, a few points to run over are listening to the community. Just like how they used to flow with their original content, they always listened to the community and kept their voices heard loud and clear. And it's reflecting a lot this season. Players have waited a month along for an OG season, and they have got it along with something involved in the next point. Bringing back originality. What made Fortnite stand out in Chapters 1 and 2 was the originality of things which empowered them to hit the headlines and have a supportive community. Season OG lowered the focus on collabs and wanted to deliver a full-fledged experience to the players. And this time, they mixed up their own original ideas to cook up a fantastic standoff to the story. The future. They have for sure learned that BR needs to stay, but so does Unreal Engine Fortnite. They're balancing each other nowadays and Epic knows it. While many disagree with the game becoming a Roblox 2.0, I think it's right to let them cook Unreal Engine Fortnite to its peak while not touching BR with such changes. A direction. Midway Chapter 3, when the realization hit to the community how Epic doesn't even know which direction they can move the game forward with, they tested Unreal Engine Fortnite and it failed miserably. They tried to bring it to Chapter 4 into play, but that failed too. With this new reboot story on the horizon, they actually have a plan laid out for the entire course of Chapter 5. In the simplest of terms, Epic has found a future in which they have a perfect direction, which involves them going back to their original roots and hearing out on the community's voices. Oh no, that last point there. But honestly, like I said with the last point, for the most part, I do agree with this, but I still don't really think that Epic Games should listen to the community, because they didn't how much did they really listen to the community back in the day? They did make sure people's voices were heard, but there was a lot of reverting updates and things that people didn't agree with. Like, the community wasn't necessarily always happy with Epic back in Chapter 1, but I will say, I completely agree with you saying they needed direction and they need to bring back their originality. They need to find a balance, like you said. They need to find a balance between their originality if they want to continue with stuff like the collaboration. So, honestly, very well said. Re-evaluate gameplay. Mainly, re-evaluate some of the semi-permanent additions such as Gold and mostly Chapter 2 gameplay changes. Gold for me and a lot of people just stayed capped at 5,000 because there was nothing to use on. Wildlife grieves games at worst and was found annoying at best. Augmented POI capturing didn't feel like it added much to the game. Cards with fuel felt like a struggle to use. I'm not saying these out of personal opinion. Many of my friends in general I play with didn't like most of the Chapter 2 to 4 gameplay changes or were neutral to them at best. if you found these additions good, more power to you, but some people weren't fans of them either. Yet when Fortnite OG made the gameplay simplified, the game still felt fun to play. If anything, it felt better. It was almost if many of these gameplay changes were more bad than good. If Fortnite Chapter 5 is going to add new gameplay change, they really need to find a balance between using it, but also not making it annoying or useless. Something like reboot bans, upgrade machines before it used gold, and shakedowns after they made it so you can cancel it are the types of changes that find balance. Now, it's really interesting because I believe most of those things that you added, with the exception of animals, I did like the wildlife personally, but that's obviously an unpopular opinion, where you have the fuel, you have the gold usage, and you have the augments and the POI capturing. Those are things that could have just been better. I don't think they were bad additions at all. Like, I don't think them being there necessarily hinders the game either, especially most of those things. Like, I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm really conflicted how I feel about that one because they could be done better. There could be stuff done to fix them. Maybe they just need to work a little bit harder on making it a little bit more fun to do these things, you know? Like augments in Chapter 4 Season 1, for example, they were perfect to use. Absolutely perfect. In my opinion, the biggest thing Epic needs to learn from this season is what made their game popular in the first place. The fun and exciting loot pool with unique and interesting weapons with updates that bring fresh and fun items to the game. Also, Epic needs to remember that BR is extremely important and it should not be overshadowed by Unreal Engine Fortnite and creative at all. While I do think them adding into Unreal Engine Fortnite is good, these last few chapters has made BR come across as a bit of an afterthought, and I'm worried Epic will forget that going into Chapter 5. With all the leaks recently, they've done a good job at gaining back the player base with this OG season, but if they want those players to stick around, they need to make sure BR gets the same level of attention it got during Chapter 1 and the Chapter 2 days, because if those players return for the BR, not Unreal Engine Fortnite. Also, those new players have had a bit of bad taste of what Unreal Engine Fortnite is trying to be recently with the age restrictions, and we all know how well that went down. In all my main point, Epic needs to focus more on what made Fortnite the game that it is today with its BR, and get back to those Chapter 1, Chapter 2 levels of quality we have been missing, because the returning players won't be as tolerant as the ones that stuck around. If Epic wanted those players to stay, they need to prove that they can keep BR fresh and interesting. FishersOfMen, as usual, I don't have much to add because I completely agree with that. What was really said wrong about this? It's true. It's so true. They cannot forget what made them big. They cannot forget that Battle Royale will always be one of the biggest hearts of Fortnite. Even if you have major success with anything else, you cannot let Battle Royale slip from your grip one little bit. This was insanely well said. People like simple and fun. People don't want crazy augments, sorry Kyle, crazy vaults, and crazy mechanics. They want a simple and fun loot pool. OG has many fun weapons, boogie bombs, clingers, stink bombs, balloons, I could go on and on. Not to mention fun vehicles, drift boards, ballers, planes. In newer Fortnite, we just had cars, so definitely more fun. Also, a less cluttered loot pool. The Fortnite loot pool got too cluttered with mythic and exotic weapons. Well, as it was in Chapter 4, I could agree with that, especially with the loot pool being cluttered. I think that they did it really, really well when mythics were first introduced, where there's one of them on the map and it's insanely powerful. I thought that was a benefit to the game, to be honest with you, but I did forget, and I've mentioned this before, I forgot how much fun it was using some of these Chapter 1 weapons, like the boogie bombs, the stink bombs, stuff like that. We need more weapons that feel more Fortnite-y. That's how I always put it, but I don't really know what else to call it, like wacky items, fun items. We need definitely more of that, but I wouldn't argue that it's simple. It's just more fun. So there's a balance, of course, just like we've been talking with everything else. In my opinion, the loot pool. The OG loot pool is very simple, but also had lots of diversity. There's plenty of simple guns that aren't bad in any way. They also make changes to it constantly in case if people aren't enjoying it at the time, and people can never get bored. Also, they didn't have crazy mobility items such as the hammer, kinetic sword, and rocket ram that has unlimited uses, which results in the whole lobby wanting to have one, which isn't good in my opinion. The lobby should be simple and good so everyone won't have basically the same thing. This was the issue with Chapter 4 Season 4. It was normal for everyone to have the twin mag rifle, infiltrator, and rocket ram, which made the meta very boring quickly. Also, and many different unique vehicles to choose from. The vehicles in the past two chapters were very generic and boring vehicles you can see everywhere in real life. We didn't have a newer returning vehicle since the beginning of Chapter 3, tanks and ballers, so I think they should make more unique vehicles to make people very excited to use them. I completely agree about the vehicles, but one thing I do disagree with, it's a very small disagreement, is the rocket ram. The reason why everybody had a rocket ram was because it was fun. Everybody loved the rocket ram. Everybody was finally happy that it was one of those fun Fortnite weapons again, but I do agree you need more items so not everybody's holding stuff like a twin mag. They weren't going in the right direction making something like the rocket ram, but other than that, I completely agree with your statement. One, actually keep the weapons from older chapters. The last two were just clean slates. Like, I get that you need to make new stuff, but come on man, give us a few returning weapons at the start of a chapter. 2, we need returning POIs. Chapter 4 was all new POIs and it was kind of boring. Chapter 3 and 2 had the perfect amount of returning POIs. Chapter 2 had Salty Springs, Pleasant Park, Retail Row, and Risky Reels. And Chapter 3 had Butter Barn, Greasy Grove, Sunny Steps kinda, Tilted Tower, Shifty, and Loot Lake. Fortnite, we need to remember that we like the old POIs, mechanics, and guns. We don't always want new stuff, but it's also important to balance all of that, because if we just got the old weapons copy and pasted, people be like, oh, Epic Games, they're losing ideas, they suck now, you know. That's what would come from it. But if there's a balance between old unvaulted stuff, especially old POIs, and new POIs coming to the game, then that would be perfectly 100% healthy. There isn't much I think they can learn from this TBH. I preferred the gameplay of Chapter 4, but if I had to pick some stuff, keeping rarities of the weapons special. I love all the mythic weapons, they should definitely keep them in Chapter 5, but the normal weapon rarities should be harder to find once it gets to epic and legendary. They need to make all epic and legendary variants of weapons have different models and feels from the rarities below. Stuff like the pump, tac, and AR do this very well. 2, I think it would be good if they added in different map terrains for Chapter 5. Chapter 4 had some of the best terrain, but it was a bit too much sometimes. If we had something like a mix of Chapter 4 and Chapter 1's terrain, I think it'd be perfect. For example, you could have a snowy mountain areas as tall as the mountain near Brutal Bastion, or a flat grassland POI like Dusty Depot. Not really something I learned from a Season OG, but I think they need to realize that the reason people love Chapter 1 so much is partly because of how long we spent on the island, how it evolved, how sad we were when it ended. People had an emotional connection to the map, and I don't think it's as impactful when you only have year-long chapters that are rushed to have an end season so quickly. It would be better for gameplay and the storyline if they kept the chapters 8 or 10 seasons. I agree with all this. We already talked at the beginning. Keeping the rarities special, change them a little bit, that's perfect. Also, the terrain, like we've also mentioned throughout the video, having a balance between the old, new stuff, having highs, the highest of high mountains and the lowest of low areas. A balance is perfect, and of course, yearly long chapters for Fortnite fans specifically. And this is where I kind of disagree, kind of not, because there is a good thing to come from yearly chapters, the hype of a new chapter. People in their TikTok brains need something new all the time, right? But for us Fortnite fans, we obviously want the 8 to 10 seasons. So we don't know what's behind the scenes on Epic Games. I would honestly, wouldn't shock me if yearly chapters were better for Epic Games than they were not. But other than that, I completely agree with everything you said. The biggest lesson I think Epic can learn from OG success is that simple gameplay is better. I play with a friend that started in Chapter 2 Season 3, and he loves the bosses and NPCs on the map. When we started playing OG, he wasn't the biggest fan of it because he thought the gameplay was slow. After the first week, his opinion completely turned around, and he was all for the OG season. Fortnite's charm is landing into a game and not knowing what's going to happen, and they lost that ever since there were NPCs that spawned with mythics. The fact that you can land anywhere on the OG map and end up winning the game is what makes Fortnite amazing. Don't get me wrong, last scene was a great one, but if you didn't land at the vault, or go to the watchtowers, or take over the loot island, every game you were at a huge disadvantage to the people that did. That's interesting, because I do like, especially like I was talking about earlier with Chapters 2, Season 2, and 3 when they did the mythics, having them at the specific spots and having only one on the map was really, really cool. So it comes back, and I don't want to just say this again, it comes back to a balance. They need to find a perfect balance when it comes to loot. They need to find a perfect balance when it comes to POI. I apologize that that's a little bit of a cop-out answer, but honestly, like, it really does come down to that. And now I'm sad because I didn't realize that that was the last reply room reply we had today. Guys, to everybody who helped make this video, thank you so much for making the video. To anybody who's watching, thank you so much for watching. If you are new here and you enjoy this, if you want to help us make the next video, join the Discord. It'll be in the pinned comment down below. Jump into the reply room and talk about anything on any other part of the channel. Help us make the videos going here. It really, really means a lot to me. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for watching the video, everybody. On the screen right now, if you'd like to continue watching the Clen channel, there'll be 3 videos for you to check out. The one closest to me, YouTube thinks you like the best. Above me, you have the rising difficulties of living dating as a gamer, and below me, you have the complete guide to fixing Fortnite. I finally nailed the outro, guys. Thank you so much for being here. See you later.